All right, so I'm currently about just over 18 months post-op, and I wanted to come in and do a kind of an update. I know it's been a while, but my biggest fear before deciding to go down this route was wondering where I would be at this point. So, in case this is you and you're wondering, I wanted to go ahead and show you my real-world experience. Now, I had an allograft. Okay, I didn't have a direct primary repair, and there was 5 years in between my initial injury till I had surgery. The reason I say that is my progress, I knew it would be this way, but would be a little bit slower than it would be had it been more immediate or if I had a direct primary repair. So now, being as far out as I am, I have full range, I have a moderate amount of strength, I can do everything that I want to do, and I'm at a point where I can go to the gym and actually feel like I'm exercising the way that I want, and I can push myself to a moderate degree. I say a moderate degree because there is a component where I still have a mental barrier of fully pushing myself. Each day that does get a little bit better. And there is still a component where it feels like an operation was done. If I had to put it on, if I had to quantify and put a number to it, I would say about 96%, right? So the surgical side feels 96% relative to the non-surgical. Now, I don't mean I have 96% strength. I mean it's lacking about 4%, I would say, if you will, to feel like there was an operation done. Okay. My overarching goal was by Christmas of this year, so just over 18 months post, was I wanted to be able to hit 225 under a bench again. Um, and I didn't have to necessarily, I told myself I didn't necessarily have to actually do 225 as long as I had it to where it was like an estimated 225. Um, so right now, today's session, I actually did 155 for 4 sets of 8 with an RPE of 6, maybe up to a 7 on that last set. Because I was doing some compounding sets. I did a compound set with that with flies because I really wanted to focus on the endurance and muscular strength and getting a lot of blood flow into the tissue. Um, so I did focus on a lot of that. Overarching, feel really well. Um, so I wanted to come in, kind of give like maybe a final update because unless anybody has any comments, questions, or concerns, I'd be happy to talk about some other things. But you should stick around because what I'm going to do in the very beginning is part of my warm up are some of the things that I recommend to a lot of patients that are dealing with possible shoulder injuries. And I'm going to walk you through why I do it, how I do it, what I generally recommend some people or most people do to a degree. I'm going to walk you through what I'm going to do to not only protect my shoulder from this surgical repair, but more importantly, to also protect it from other future potential injuries in order to maintain that sturdy shoulders and to bulletproof them as best as I can. And so stick around because I think you're going to learn something or two. All right. So one of the first things I found that I really like to do is kind of just loosen up the pec for just about a minute or two. I like to do a foam roller in the middle, and I kind of go at an angle, and I literally spend no more than like 30-ish seconds. So my left side is the one that I had the operation on, but I make sure to do both. So I want to kind of hit getting that full external rotation to open it up. I kind of just go through that, and then I'll kind of just hit the side a little bit directly on top. And I do the same thing to the other side, even though this is quote unquote good side. So I'll start there. And then sometimes what I like to do after is kind of go into this extension position and then try to just reach over. And so I'll just fully go over top to just get that arm used to going to that full position. And it's gotten much easier. And I can do this with load. Sometimes if it's stiffer, I might use a little, like a light 10-pound plate. If not, I just use the weight of my arm. All right, so after I loosen it up, what I like to do is I like to sit at a bench and I want to get my arm in a supported position. And I like to go through full external rotation, and this is known as the sagittal plane because this is the full motion that I should need after joint. And so I want to come and make sure I come all the way up. And now I would like to do it a little bit loaded. So I'm going to start with my right and I'll walk you through it. I just like to grab a plate. Sometimes it's a dumbbell. Never go anything heavy, never anything more than 10 pounds. And I want to rest it. If it's harder, I'll come out to the side and slowly want to work your way into where it's kind of like directly in front of you. Especially if you're going to do bench or shoulder presses, you want to make sure you have good control in whatever angle plane that you're going to be doing pressing. So when I'm here, I'm going to slowly come down over count of 1, 2, 3 seconds. And then as I come up, it might be hard to tell in the video, but I'm actually driving my elbow into the bar on the way up and the way down. So I'm going to go nice and slow. I'm going to come in here and just. And then I like to switch. Now, we should be feeling this kind of in the back of the shoulder, not here on the top. So, same thing. I'm out of here, man. Okay, have a good one. So we want to have full range. So right here, you should see my elbow, my wrist stacked right on top of each other. You should be able to go 290, if not slightly beyond. That's full range. We want to have a little bit of joint play at the end of the motion. We don't want this to go significantly further out. If so, we're actually just stressing the hell out of the joint. And so we just want to come in nice and slow. And we're going to do this. I think I lost count, but I usually just do like 10, 12 maybe. For this exercise, I always like to focus on that last rep, getting that eccentric lowering. But I'm going to do about 3 sets on this. Sometimes if I need a fourth, or maybe a second, doesn't matter. I don't focus on it too much. I just want to make sure I prime the lower part of the rotator cuff as best as possible. If the rotator cuff is not doing its role well, the more dominant superficial muscles are going to take over. So the subscap, the pec major is going to take over. If it's uh, the infraspinatus, supraspinatus, then we're going to see the deltoid take over. And that's when people start dealing with like impingement and such. And so I want to mitigate those things. So I'm hitting the infraspinatus with this in a supported position. And then I'm going to follow this up with a bottoms up kettlebell hold. That way it's unsupported. And then I'm going to do a little bit for the subscap. And then I'm going to dive into direct targeting of this. So come on. So this is a 20-pound kettlebell. I'm going to go in a bottoms up position. If you can see closely, I'll get closer. You want to make sure you're up at 90 degrees here. And then you're holding that. And so we're focusing on the stability. And again, you should feel this underneath, not on top. Okay. So if I see myself dipping down, I want to come up. Now, hopefully this is close enough, but you can see my elbow going out to the side and my wrist. It's not stacked directly over top of it. So I want to focus on driving my elbow underneath to maintain that stacked position. And again, I should feel this under here and not on the shoulder too much. Then I go through, and I'm gonna do both sides. And so I usually go up and down this, probably same thing, 3 or 4 times in the beginning. So here, same thing. Now, my arm is starting to feel really good after 2. Then I'll go into possibly a waiter's carry, which we're going to start the same position, but now we're going to go fully overhead. And this I tend to find I have to walk a little slower to maintain balance. And again, I should not feel this at all at the top of the shoulder. If so, there's some lack of control. So from a side view, hopefully you can see, I have a little bit of an arch, but I want to make sure my arm, my humerus, is at full range. And then I'll just do this one generally once. Now, arms are feeling pretty good. I've hit my external rotators really well. I got the mobility that I need. I've primed it. I've loosened up the soft tissue. Now the last thing is I'm going to hit the subscap. All right, so for hitting the subscap, I usually go between two different exercises, a bear hug or a single arm pull down with a subscap emphasis. I'm going to show you both. So bear hug, we can bias the top part or the lower part of the subscap depending on the angle. So here, because I'm going to do a lot of pressing in the straight plane, I'm going to try to get that plane as a whole, maybe a little bit higher or a little bit lower. Okay. So when I'm going to have an offset, I'm going to do one arm at a time. And it's kind of like doing a fly, but you're going to focus on that internal rotation. And the biggest component here is the eccentric or the negative component. So I'm going to turn a little bit so I can hit a little bit more. And I'm going to make sure I go into that full internal rotation. And now I don't need to come way back here. I just need to get that full range of motion. The pec major's main role is adduction or bringing the arm across the side. So I don't need to focus on bringing that too much. I need to focus on the internal rotation. And I want to do it in a little bit of a dynamic motion because I'm going to be doing some pressing and I want to facilitate it before doing it. All right, so this, I want to do a single arm pull down with a subscap focus. The main difference as a pull down is to target the lats versus the rhomboids. First, having the subscap component, all is going to dictate on how much of the scapular depression and retraction occurs. Because I want to eliminate the lats, which naturally pull you into retraction and extension, I'm going to force protraction and I'm going to be reaching the whole time and bringing my arm down to try to eliminate that. Okay. Obviously, it can't be 100% eliminated, but we are going to try to emphasize the subscap. So coming in here, I'll show you a slight difference if you look at the arm or the shoulder. Subscap focus, keeping my arm up, and I'm coming down, going into an internal rotation, and I'm focusing on both the concentric and the eccentric. I'm going to do one more. Now to show you a difference of what would be if we facilitate lats more, you should see my shoulder fully drop and come back. And so now, lat focused, subscap. And so I want to hit that subscap pretty well. After the first set, into the second, I always like to do both sides. But what I might do to facilitate a little bit more is to turn away. And then when I pull down, I might even bend and side bend away to get a little bit more of a stretch here in this point. You should feel really under the armpit. Then I'm going to pull down and kind of, I don't know if you can see this well, but I'm internally rotating my arm to where my palm is facing backwards. And I'll come right to where my thumb is touching my side. And I might even try to go a little bit further. And then same thing, I'm going to come down nice and slow. And I would go ahead and do that to both sides. I'm going to finish this up and get ready to get to the core part of the lifts. All right, so the next thing I'm going to do is going to be a lat pull down. Now, as far as the width I'm going to go, I like to use the same width that I would do during a bench press, especially since I'm training on the same day. And I like to do it before bench press to kind of prime the shoulder and prime the lats. Now, I like to use straps for everything because I never want my grip to give out, but I always hold everything like fingertips. I don't fully wrap my hand all the way around it. And so just kind of come under and I fully let a full stretch. All right, so finally at the bench in, I'm gonna use straps because I kind of bothered my finger. So I'm just gonna wrap it to give it extra like cushion. So I'm about 18 months out and it's taken this long to not have to warm up less than 135. Today I'm planning on only going in 155 for 4 sets of 8. And I've slowly been able to go out as wide as I used to. All right, right now my program accounts for a compound set with bench plus flies. So today I'm doing machine flies. I'm sitting a little bit lower. That can hit more of the mid to the upper pec. And the last set or rep, I like to just come in for a couple squeezes and come out nice and slow. All right, so now I'm moving on to incline press. I like to do incline press around 55 degrees, not 45. I just feel like I get a better pump and activation in the upper part of the chest, just underneath the collarbone. So in the past 18 months, 12-ish months, more so, I've noticed not necessarily a lot in strength. It feels more comfortable, yes, but I've noticed I can start to bring the dumbbells out a little wider and I feel like I have control. Um, right now I'm doing 35 days. I'm going to do a brief warm up. Um, but I'll probably work up to, I think I'm scheduled for 40, 45 or 50 pounds. Um, I think for 8 or 10, but I'm just doing a quick warm up. So all right, so I'm in the final stretch. I'm doing the last exercise. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a dumbbell pullover to get that elongation after I've just crushed my chest. So I'm going to wrap up with this and then I'll be done. I'll be good to go. So I'm going to rest a minute. I'm going to do 3 of those total and then I'll be done.